We'll do a call to order for the meeting and get an announcement of the time and date. And we'll ask everyone to mute their microphones and only turn them on when they speak. Remind them to announce their name when speaking.
Sir, if you'd like to go on to item B, we can.
Okay, let's do roll call and certification of quorum. Let's start with.
Would you like me to do the roll call for you, sir?
Yes, please.
Dr. Gonzalez, Carrie Hatley, Eric Garcia, Blaine Sybil, Maurice Watkins,
Here.
Dr. Louis Chapa. You're muted, sir.
Sorry, here.
Dr. Roger Temple,
Here.
Forrest Washington,
Here.
and presiding officer, Dr. Wayne Lee.
Here.
We have a quorum, sir.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so we have a quorum. We're moving to item C now. And item C is for the retirement of Lee Parham, Deputy Director of the Regulatory Program and Management Division. And let's see, who's first? Is it David or Greg?
Looks like we need to turn on the camera for our public meeting room so we can see everybody.
Hey, we have a group there. The guys. Hey, guys.
We lost it, Fiscal.
Greg, go ahead and say something so we can see you.
Hello, good morning, everybody. Good morning, board. Greg Alvarez, Combative Sports Program Manager. Now, we're here today, just, the lead took off on us real quick, so we were able to bring him back, and we're gonna say a couple of, kind words, and we're gonna try to stick to the truth as much as possible. But, we're just gonna let him get away like that. He's been with us so long, he's a family member, and just, the words I had to say is, he was a mentor to me, and, he introduced me to 3 of my ex-wives, and, real good choices. And then, we done a lot of big shows together, and we had a lot of adventures, and, I wish his adventures would continue, because we had a lot of fun together, and we in the RPM division, Combat Sports, and everybody who's now under Chris Rusty here. How did that work? Oh, there he is. And we all signed the glove for you, and so did the executive office. So you remember us? This is from RPM.
Great.
This is from the executive office.
Excellent.
You got some Seto Reyes, some original.
Good deal.
Maxwell Lee. We're gonna miss you, brother. We love you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, David.
So Lee, you and I toiled here at this agency for quite a few years under Mr. Ferry's tutelage, and I've just had so much admiration and respect for you. Quite frankly, your sarcasm, your wit, your no-nonsense attitude always kept me surprised, because it's not something you always see in government. We're always diplomatic. You already know I'm the crybaby, so I'm going to try to keep it short. The reality is our agency would not have accomplished everything that we had without your leadership and commitment. And so I'm just honored to have been able to work alongside you, to learn from you, and also to be able to call you a coworker and a strong champion for the things that you were able to accomplish for all of our programs. So just really appreciate everything you did while you were here. And I wish you the best in retirement. And I'm fixing to come see you in person just because I'm really excited that you're here. I didn't get to give you a hug, and you got to see me cry a little bit. So I'm going to be over there in a little bit.
Good deal. Thank you, David.
Good morning, Lee.
Good morning.
It's Jim. I'm in Clearwater.
Oh, wow. Been a
Just
few years
wanted-
since we've been there.
Yeah, I want to join in. And you know, what's the old saying? The weather is here. Wish you were beautiful. No, that's not how it goes.
Pretty close.
Lee, I want to personally thank you for your guidance and support too during our tenure together at TDLR. I also want to thank you for both your personal and professional support of the Association of Boxing Commissions. All the years you attended there, and while I was a member of their executive committee, I appreciated your votes and your input, and you know, it was a good time all the time. This morning, I received a photo of Lee sent by his wife Jan. It's actually a picture.
Do that.
It's actually, I don't know if you're able to share it. It could, Anna, it came in late, but it's a picture of Lee. There you go. I thought it was John Travolta for a minute. I thought she missed.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that's when, that's what Lee looked like when he started with the agency 33 years ago. Doesn't that look like John Travolta staying alive? All right. So anyway, that's enough from me. I want to close by sharing the sentiments. I want to close by sharing the sentiments that Jan attached to the photo. She says, I can't make it to Lee's recognition of his many years of service to the agency, but I can say without hesitation that the best thing I have ever done in my lifetime is to marry Lee.
Wow.
Lee is a fabulous husband, father, son, grandpa, and Christian. That's all for today. And I thought, well said, Jan. Well said.
Thank you very much.
Chairman Lee, and now to Lee. Brian Francis, Executive Director of TDLR. Lee, it's so good to see you, man. When I saw you in the hallway, man, my heart just danced. I'm probably gonna say what everyone else has said, but I'll try to say it a little differently. You really brought a lot of respect, integrity, and honor to this world and into my world as a leader. You did what some folks try to do often, but you did it probably the best, is you upward delegated. Lee would give me work to do. And the work that he gave me to do was to be better and to really be true to when I talked about core values and respect. Lee was the one that was challenging me to make sure that I lived up to those words. And I appreciate that. I've got tremendous respect for you. When I first came over and I knew that you were the environmental guy, the water well guy, but you were so much more than that. You're absolutely so much more than that. A strong leader. Part of it is you reminded me of when I grew up and we had that connection, that small town football connection. We talked a lot about that, and we had those shared values of just getting out there and doing two-a-days, and we had those conversations. But the thing that I loved about you is that when you said you were going to do it, you did it. And that's so rare today, to have somebody that lives up to their words. You use the phrase sometimes when we would ask you to have conversations with your staff, and it used to make Sharon cringe, but you're like, I'm gonna have to tune them up a little bit. And and you did. You tuned them up, but I think there was some fine tuning that had to take place. But you did it in a way that worked for each of your folks. You were able to customize your inspiration to them, your concerns about their development, and that was important. So I learned a lot from you. Love you. Thank you for paving the way for me to make the step out as well. So thanks for coming back, man.
Thank
Love
you.
for you
Thank
always.
you. Thank you very much, Brian. Always.
Chairman Lee, if you don't mind, I've just got one thing real quick. My name is Steve Bruno. I'm the Senior Government Relations Officer here at TDLR. And here in this box, Lee, we've got a flag. Speaker Phelan in the Texas House had this prepared for you to honor your service to the state.
Outstanding.
This flag flew last Friday over the state capitol, and it's presented here as a honor to you and all that you've done. And I just want to say thank you for being a great friend and a great coworker.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
Dr. Lee, I think it's for the board if they want to say some words and then giving Lee an opportunity to come up unless there's someone else.
Let's make it, since you're used to open mic, let's have it for any of the board members if they would like to have anything to say, that they have the opportunity to say it at this time. Okay, Lee, before you get up, I would just say for the ringside physicians, we thank you and appreciate you for all that you've done in terms of helping us and in terms of getting the conferences and everything together that we've had in order to educate the other doctors across the state so that all of us are sort of working all on the same page. So I think that it's those types of things and the continuation of those types of things that will help make and keep the program strong from the physician standpoint. So thank you for that, and good luck on your fishing or whatever you're doing in your retirement.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Am I next?
You're
Yes.
next, man.
You're next.
I'm in the pulpit.
Hallelujah.
All
Pass it
right,
on.
brother. All right. I want to thank everybody for their kind words. It really touches me. And when a certain individual called me last week, to say, am I available? I asked him, now, I was a little leery. I said, is this gonna be a roast? And he said, he assured me that it was not going to be a roast, and it really hasn't been. I have loved every year that I've worked here at TDLR, through the good and the bad. The support of my wife, Janice, who sent that picture up here. Thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate that.
That's good. This is recorded.
Yeah, it is recorded. No, I just, I've been in, around, and previously over combative sports for years. I mean, many, many years. It all started when my dad had a fighter that he managed. And he took this fighter up through the ranks. Okay, he's from Port Arthur, Texas, where I grew up. Took him up through the ranks, and he got a shot with Marvin Hagler, the middleweight champion. Our guy didn't win, however, he got there and he fought. And from the time I was 11 or 12 years old, I was a sparring partner, which made me decide real quick with a crooked nose like I have now, I'm not gonna do that. So I ended up here at TDLR, and I just want to thank everybody for their support and their love. And man, I'm gonna miss y'all. I miss combative sports. I miss the regulatory environment, but I don't miss it that much. Well, Janice and I are having a real good time. We're having a blast with grandchildren, 4 of them now. We've been traveling, so I just want to tell everybody on the board also, we've been through a lot, and with the advisory board's guidance, we've really overcome some pretty big obstacles with combative sports. So, executive team, staff members, even you, the government guy, and all the support, thank you very much. I appreciate everybody's love.
Oh, yeah, let's do it. Hey, Dr. Lee, would you take about a 5-minute break so we can make sure we kind of shut everything down over here?
You're muted,
You're
Dr.
muted,
Lee.
sir.
Doing all right? Yeah, man. I miss you.
What time to resume, Anna?
So we're looking at 11:21 from my computer.
Okay, 11:21, we'll sign back in.
Thank
Thank
you, sir.
approval of minutes for the meeting of September 21st of 2021. And ask the board members to make a motion and someone to second after they've reviewed the minutes.
We may not have a quorum present right now to take that action. I'm a little.
Oh, we're still missing.
Mr. Washington and, oh, here, and Dr. Chapa, we are waiting for
No,
to
I'm here.
return. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Chopper's there.
I'm listening.
Okay, all right. And so Dr.
Dr.
Chapa.
Chapa's on as well.
Okay, okay, well, we're good. We can get everybody's camera back on for now, too.
All right.
Awesome.
Oh, where did I go?
Sir, we just need someone to make a motion and someone to second.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes from last meeting.
And can I have a second?
And Dr. Lee, I'm Termite Watkins. Am I able, I'm kind of new at this,
Yes, sir, you can.
and I do.
Well, go ahead. That's good. All right, we have a motion and a second. So the minutes have been approved from the September 21st meeting.
Let me go ahead and do a roll call vote for you, sir.
Sure, go ahead.
Termite Watkins. Dr. Chapa. Dr. Temple. Forrest Washington. Oh, you're muted, sir. Or raise your hand or something. Perfect, thank you. And presiding officer, Dr. Lee. The motion passes, sir.
Okay. Let's move on to public comment. Do we have any public comment for this meeting?
Yes, sir. We have one person who wishes to give public comment today. His name, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher this, is Bakash Wilson. He's with the Dominion Warrior. And I believe we're bringing him on now. Mr. Wilson, can you hear us? Oh, you're muted, sir.
Yes, I can. I can hear you.
Perfect, thank you. You're going to have 3 minutes to address the board.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and time you, so your time starts now.
Okay. Thank you, board, for speaking with us today. We represent a group called Dominion Warrior. We've been promoting here in Texas with the commission for about 15 years. Had a wonderful time with Vicki Cole, and of course, we're working well with Greg Alvarez, your program manager right now. We promote, of course, mixed martial arts, boxing, Muay Thai. We've been working the past 11 years. We've created an event called Try Combat, which is trademarked, copyrighted, patented, protected. And we've done it in Oklahoma to sort of do the trial runs. It's been approved and, of course, works well with the commission. But we want to be home here in Texas. This is where we're based. This is where we are. Try Combat, basically what it does is it takes 3 rounds. And the first round we do our roughhouse boxing or boxing. Then we go into the second round of Muay Thai and the third round of MMA. So in 3 rounds, we give you all 3 different fights. It's a way that the fighters really get to exhibit all of their skills they trained at for years. The fighters love it. We'd like to begin the process of getting approval through TDL and the commission, whatever necessary, going through whatever legal issues need to be addressed, as well as any type of sanctioning. But this is the first opportunity to present it to you. We want to begin the process, and we can send both videos, our rules, regulations, which is taken from the official rules that already exist according to those that are on the books already. It's just a matter and format in which it's being presented. It's exciting, and we're looking forward to hopefully with it being based here in Texas as we take it to the global market. So this is the beginning of our process with you. We've been speaking with Greg for years about it now, and it's time to really bring it to its fruition. My 2-minute elevator pitch.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Wilson. Thank you. Mary Winston, TDLR. Just want to remind everyone, because we don't have public speakers often in this meeting, but we do have them in our other regular advisory board meetings pretty often. We thank you for your comments. Because they are public comments that are not part of the agenda, we're not allowed to ask any questions other than clarifying questions. So we don't make this a part of an agenda that was not posted for the public. If that is your presentation, we thank you for it. And if you have any other comments, reach out to us again via email. And if the board has clarifying questions, they could ask. If not, thank you so much for
Thank you.
bringing your public comments.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you again. Let's move on to item F. Discussion and possible recommendations on the proposed amendments to the existing rules at 16 Texas Administrative Code, TAC, Chapter 61, regarding the combative sports program. The proposed amendments implemented provisions of House Bill HB 1560, 82nd regular session 2021 that removed licensure requirements for persons acting as combative sports seconds, matchmakers, and event coordinators, and makes other blocking.
I can take it from here, Dr. Lee. No need to
Go
read the
ahead.
whole caption. Sure thing. Thank you, Dr. Lee. Hello, board members. My name is Doug Jennings. I'm an assistant general counsel for the department. Great to see you all here today. Just give you a little reminder, as Dr. Lee mentioned, TDLR's sunset bill, that was House Bill 1560 that Dr. Lee mentioned, from this past legislative session, removed the licensure requirements for matchmakers, event coordinators, and seconds. The proposed rules begin on page 6 of your meeting materials. I'm not going to put them up on screen right now, but if you have any questions about any particular provision, I certainly will. These proposed rules implement House Bill 1560 by removing the provisions relating to licensing for matchmakers, event coordinators, and seconds, and also, as Dr. Lee mentioned, make some other stylistic changes related to removing gender-specific provisions and just increasing readability of the rules overall without changing the substance. At your last meeting, at the last meeting of this board, this board recommended publication of those proposed rules without change. We published the rules, and we had a 30-day comment period for the public to submit us their thoughts on the rules. We received 0 comments, which is interesting. Sometimes we receive none, sometimes we receive a heap. And so this time we didn't receive any comments, which is not surprising considering this rule package simply implements a bill passed by the legislature. Happy to answer any questions about the rules today that we are asking for your recommendation that the rules as proposed be sent to our commission for their final approval and adoption. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Hearing none, and Dr. Lee seems to have gone off camera. What we're asking for today is a motion that these rules be approved by the advisory board and sent to TDLR's commission for final approval.
Okay, can we have a motion to approve the changes that were just outlined and a second?
Doug, my name is Termite Watkins.
Yes, sir.
Can I get you to just kind of go through those rules? I'm new at this stuff here.
Happily.
But could you go through it one more time?
Sure thing. I will bring them up on screen, and hopefully we will be able to see this. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right, great. It's a pretty small rules package, Mr. Watkins, and what you'll see is a great example is, as you recall, House Bill 1560, like I mentioned, removed the licensure requirements for seconds, matchmakers, and event coordinators.
Right.
So what we're doing as we go through the rules is removing those provisions. So you'll see We're removing the definition of matchmaker here. You'll see the changes. A removal, of course, is denoted by these strike throughs. And you'll see new language. If we're adding something, you'll see it underlined as we go through it. So you'll see here in the definition of knockdown, for example, we removed the word his since we have fighters that of both genders.
Right.
So we're removing his, replacing that with the feet. And so some numbering changes you'll see after the removal of the matchmaker definition. I'll scroll down to the real meat here, which is our general licensing requirements rule 6120. So as it presently reads, it mentions that professional combative sports contestants, promoters, referees, judges, seconds, matchmakers, managers, and event coordinators have to be registered or licensed.
Right.
So what we're simply doing here is removing the reference to seconds, matchmakers, and event coordinators.
Okay.
Just in compliance with the law. And also, in our general prohibitions, we can't, it's very difficult for us to be able to enforce the law against people who aren't licensed. So you'll see we're removing the provision that says matchmakers may not have a direct or indirect financial interest in any contestant because the matchmaker after House Bill 1560 is no longer a recognized function. It's simply something that falls under the promoter's responsibilities. And of course, you'll see that we also mentioned that a matchmaker may not act as, may not be licensed as a contestant or second, because that change in law has taken effect. A matchmaker, once again, is not a function, so we're removing that. You'll see some stylistic changes here that don't really have any substance. May act, removing his, replacing that with a. I think you'll see a lot of similar changes. I will draw your attention. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. I think probably the most interesting thing about this rule package relates to the responsibilities of seconds. So as I mentioned, a second is no longer a licensed function. So because we cannot hold let's say we have a second who violates the law or rules, because a second is no longer licensed, the contestant is responsible for the conduct of his or her seconds. So a violation of the rules by seconds may subject the contestant to disqualification, forfeiture, administrative penalty, or license sanction. So really what we're doing is making the contestant responsible for the conduct of his or her seconds. Of course, if a second acts inappropriately, that person can be removed from the event by the referee. But further, if it's egregious conduct, for example, we can levy an administrative penalty or license sanction against the contestant to whom that second is assigned.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Now, back on the matchmaker, so the matchmaker doesn't have to have it, but then when it goes through, I'm fixing to do my first show in January, so now it will come back through me to get everything approved through the commission on the fights. Is that correct?
It will, yes. It's the promoter's responsibility. The promoter now has those really has the functions of matchmaker and event coordinator essentially folded into them, and it's expected that a large promoter, for example, may have employees who perform that function, but it's all under the promoter's responsibility. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm in agreement with those.
Okay. All right. Thank you, and always happy to answer questions if anyone else has others.
Okay, that sounds good. Does anyone else? I think, Anna, we need to do a roll call, correct?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Dr. Louis Chapa? Dr. Roger Temple? Forrest Washington? Maurice Termite Watkins?
I'm here.
And presiding officer, Dr. Wayne Lee. The motion passes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Moving on, we're on to item G, staff reports, starting with the licensing division, Ms. Walton.
Good morning, Presiding Officer Dr. Lee and board members. I am Chloe Whalen, the Licensing Manager for Combative Sports Program. For personnel updates, we had Miss Irma Mendoza. I cannot speak this morning. She resigned from TDLR and the safety regulators and on November 5th. And so she is no longer with the agency, but she's doing well. And I spoke with her yesterday. For our statistics for fiscal year 2022, for the combative sport contestants, we've issued 114 new licenses, and that population is 657. For combative sports judge, we've issued one new license, we renewed 8 licenses, and that total population is 74. For combative sport manager, we've issued 4 new licenses, renewed 2, and our population is 27. For matchmakers, they are no longer regulated, so we currently have no new numbers for them. You'll see that this license type, along with the seconds and the event coordinators, will no longer be provided on this report going forward. So for the combative sports promoter, there were no new licenses. We renewed 4 licenses, and that population is 36. For combative sport referee, there were no new licenses. We issued 7 renewals, and that population is 58. And we are down to the Amateur Combative Sports Associations. We issued 1 new license, renewed 1, and that total population is 9. That concludes my report. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you.
Thank you so much, Chloe.
You're
Any
welcome.
questions from anyone in the group? If not, let's move on to customer service. Ms. Whitson.
Good morning, everyone. I am going to present the customer service report today because they are very busy doing what they do best. Customer service has hired 7 new CSRs, customer service reps, and 1 quality training and performance analyst. These folks began their new roles on October 1. They're being trained to follow a preset call workflow, use the NICE in contact phone system to take calls, and update our Dynamics 365 customer relationship management system. They're also conducting research and identifying pain points and just preparing to be the next employees of the month or the quarter. The QTPA, which is the new hire, that's the quality training and performance analyst, which is something very necessary. It helps them do what they do and do it well. Will join a team of 2 others, figuring out producing reports, developing and onboarding, and doing special projects and troubleshooting. A posting to fill a manager is coming soon. The statistics. They provided for us the statistics thus far for September and October. And we have, I'm not going to read them all, but not a horrible amount of calls and emails. And then the second page kind of brings us through the whole comparison throughout the fiscal year from last fiscal year. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you have some questions, I will have to take them back to customer service. I'm always in awe of how they do what they do, and they do it so well. And they will be happy to respond. But let me know if you have questions, and I will get that back to you. And that is the end of the report.
Thank you so much, Mary. And I'm sure you could answer those questions. You're just being kind. Okay. Moving on to enforcement. Aaron,
Yes, hi. Good morning.
thank you.
Hi, my name is Aaron Heath, and I'm a prosecutor with the Enforcement Division, here to give the Enforcement Division staff report. We have a couple personnel updates, both on September 15th, 2021. First, Kimberly Ferrero Mitchell was promoted to Management Analyst 3. Kim used to be my legal assistant, so congratulations. And then also Estella Ramos was promoted to Senior Legal Assistant in our intake section. Moving on to the statistics for fiscal year 2022. It should be noted that the fiscal year starts on September 1st and ends on October 31st. And this is the stats for 2022 through the end of September. So this is 1 month of statistics. So it's not a great representative sample, but we'll present these statistics for you. We had 3 cases opened. We had 3 cases closed. And the average time to close was 419 days. The percentage of cases resolved in 6 months was 33%, and the percentage of cases resulting in disciplinary action was 66%. And at the end of September, we had 34 open cases.
Sir, I don't mean to interrupt, but Dr. Gonzalez is now logged into our meeting.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We're in the middle of the Enforcement Division staff report, if you're trying to figure out where we are in the agenda.
I got it.
Okay, great. So for the fiscal year 2022, since we've only had 3 cases open, it's split evenly. We have 1 departmental case, 1 consumer case, and 1 criminal history case. So should be 33% all the way around, 33.33. We've had 0 commission orders. Those are orders that go to a hearing and go before the commission for approval. We've had 1 default order, which is an order where we issued a notice of alleged violation, but the respondent did not respond. And then we have 1 agreed order where the department issued a notice of alleged violation and the respondent responded and agreed to the violation. So far in 2022, fiscal year 2022, we've assessed $750 in penalties and collected $250. And we informally resolved 1 case. The alleged violations at opening for the 3 cases were 1 criminal history, 1 for the promoter not having contestants licensed at least 72 hours before an event, and then 1 for the referee did not follow knockdown rules. And for the cases that resulted in disciplinary action for fiscal year 2022 so far, we've had 2 for the contestant did not report prescribed or over-the-counter medication. Going down below, last advisory board meeting, we presented the fiscal year 2021 statistics through the end of July. We have now the complete 2021, so we have the August statistics added to it. We had 27 cases opened. We closed 48 cases, and the average time to close was 317 days. The percentage of cases resolved within 6 months was 27%, and the percentage of cases resulting in disciplinary action is 52%. And also at the end of fiscal year 2021, we had 34 cases open. And you can see this is a better sample for the types of cases and the caseloads that we have. So 45% of our cases were departmental complaints, and then 48% were consumer, with 7% being criminal history. So you can see that it's a very, it deviates significantly from the general trends of TDLR programs. There's a lot more departmental cases, which results in a lot more cases having disciplinary action, as you can tell from a little bit above. 52% of the combative sports cases result in disciplinary action, whereas the TDLR average is 13%, so significantly higher. Go down a little bit here. So we had 0 commission orders issued. We had 20 default orders, 6 agreed orders issued. Those penalties should be flipped. Oh, no, that's right. No, penalties assessed is $39,750. And we've collected so far $4,430. We revoked 3 licenses for disciplinary action. We suspended 1 license. We did not have any licenses denied or revoked for criminal history. We didn't issue any cease and desist orders, and we informally resolved 22 cases. And informally resolved includes cases for insufficient evidence, cases that were informally resolved, and cases that resulted in a warning. The main alleged violations at opening for the combative sports program are the promoter acted without a license, the contestant for drugs and alcohol, it's a failed drug test, and the contestant acted without a license. These were for fiscal year 2021. And then the combative sports violations that resulted in disciplinary action, the 3 big ones are the contestants for drugs and alcohol, which is failing a drug test, and then the promoter for failing to bear all financial responsibility for an event. And then we had 2 for the contestant did not fulfill the promoter contestant contract. And that's just below on the screen. Right there. So you can see it was 15 for the failed drug test, 3 for the promoters, and then 2 for not fulfilling the promoter contestant contract for contestants. That's it for the statistics. So we're going to move on to the case highlights. And given the shortened time frame, we don't have as many cases for you, but we have these 2. And the first one is for Odell Culver Panton on September 20th, 2021. An agreed order was entered against Odell Culver Panton that assessed an administrative penalty of $250. The department cited the respondent for failure to inform the executive director of the usage of prescribed or over-the-counter medication at least 24 hours before an event. And then the second case is for Jordan Matthew Jones. On September 21st, 2021, a default order was entered against Jordan Matthew Jones that assessed an administrative penalty of $500. The department cited respondent for failure to inform the executive director of the usage of prescribed or over-the-counter medication at least 24 hours before the event. And it should be noted we've collected all the assessed penalties for Mr. Panton above. That is it for my staff report. Do you have any questions?
If there are no,
This is Roger Temple. I have one question. I think it's probably just a clarification. If you go to the start of your statistics for the current fiscal year, there's 3 cases opened and 3 cases closed. Those are not the same cases, correct?
Right.
The closed cases are follow
The two
from
the 2 closed cases are the cases I actually just went over the case highlights for you. So Mr. Panton and Mr. Jones. Those were opened prior to the beginning of fiscal year 2022. So these, the 3 cases that were opened in fiscal year 2022 could potentially be, one of them could be the third one that's closed, but I can tell you that for sure.
Okay. It's just a little confusing in my mind, and there were 3 cases open and closed. That didn't all occur in 1 month, so those are
Right.
My
Potentially. Right. That would be difficult because they usually last longer than that.
Right, because the 419 days was the average time to close, which is
right.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
any other questions or comments? Let's move on to
Okay, thank you.
regulatory. That's Greg. Greg?
Yes. Hello, advisory board members. Greg Alvarez, Combative Sports Program Manager. Today we're going to start off with the personal updates. Charlotte Melder is still our Director of Regulatory Program Management. You know, the acronym we use is RPM. And then we just had to go away for Lee, but as of August 31st, that's when Lee retired, and he was our Deputy Director of the RPM division. And now Chris Russi has become the manager of RPM. He's a manager of RPM that's going to be overseeing combative sports as sort of like what Lee was doing over us. Another thing is right now we still sit with 8 personnel, Arturo in Dallas, and everybody else is here in Austin, which is me, myself, Jim Erickson, Cesar Martinez, Gus Calderon, Linda Vargas, Joseph Salazar, and Tony Solis. So I think everybody knows everybody as far as on the board who's ever worked with us. So we're all still here. We're still consistent, and everybody still just loves working. Now our stats start from the fiscal year 21 from September 1st, 2020 through August 31st of 2021. And then you're going to see next one is we're on fiscal year 22, where we go back from August till November 30th. Now this year so far, we've had 5 amateur MMA events, 16 boxing events, and 6 MMA events, and 4 combo events.
4 combo events. Those are MMA Muay Thai events we usually have in the Dallas area. So that's where it comes out. If you look at last year, we're keeping pretty much in touch with the amount of fights. But because remember, we had a couple of shutdowns because of COVID. So as you notice, boxing dropped down to 16 from 24, and MMA dropped down halfway from 6 to 12. There was only a couple of promoters running, but now it's up and running. We're having more inquiries about having shows. Our calendar has been filling up with upcoming shows and new promoters. So when we go down on promoters meetings, last year, September 1st of 20 compared to this year, we had 6 professional promoters meetings. So far this year, we've had, I say 2, but we've already had 4 because I'm counting ones we had in December, and we've had 1 amateur that also happened after November. So the amateur is going to be tied in with a professional promoter. So those are going to be dual professional amateur shows in MMA. Current project we're working on right now, I start on a video to explain what is all involved in the program. And this is a program that RPM has, and each section of RPM is turning in a video, pictures, and it's going to be a quick review for anybody can view to see how a program works. It's going to be like a quick reference guide to somebody who don't know the program, somebody who walks in. So to like termites, somebody can look at it and say, what else do they do at TDLR under RPM? You can look at the other programs. We're getting that put together right now. We're also developing we developed a spreadsheet, not developing, we developed a spreadsheet. It's just started. We're tracking the performance of officials, which is judges, referees, and timekeepers, as well as contract inspectors and doctors. And basically, after the end of each show on Monday, we have a staff report meeting, and whatever event happened that week, the lead up to that event, we have the spreadsheet, and then it'll have like Dr. Lee, and then it'll have 3 things. He acted professional, he was unprofessional, or unsatisfactory. So we'll mark them like that. That way, in case we need a doctor and we see that he's not always up to par, we're probably not going to use him on a big event or a show that, he's going to be paired up with somebody else who's not up to par. So it's a new system we're keeping, and it's we have Meg. She's new to RPM. I forgot what Meg's last name is, but she's the one to help us put these spreadsheets together, and she's helped us out with a lot of helpful information how to keep track, and as well as like on the judges, we make notes on the judges, and we're seeing that they're judging with the majority, against the majority, or they're lacking more training, and this is all going to be available. Meg Peel, her name is Meg Peel. I can't remember her last name. And so that's as far as the spreadsheets. If you ever want to see one, just let me know, and I can send you a copy. And it's real easy. You can follow it, and that it'll be a better understanding. So, as a matter of fact, after this meeting, I'll send all the board members a copy. You can look at it real quick. Another thing is we continue to monitor positive test rates and hospitalization rates in the area where the events are scheduled. So, like every first of the month, or like the new variant of COVID that came out, we're looking at it, and as far as what regions are really being affected, whether we need to implement, a bigger technical zone, possible testing, possible, just something to make it safer, that we're not putting ourselves in a bind and danger, or putting anybody else in danger. But we continue to monitor that daily, weekly, monthly. But right now, everything's running smooth. We're opened up 100% at events, as well as the social distancing we still got going on around us is still pretty much keeping us at safe distance from other people. Another thing is we've opened up. We were down to 2 shows at one time when the COVID was real high. We had cut down to 2 events per week just to keep it minimal as far as the spread of COVID. Now, because of the variant is going down and the infection rate, what we've seen, we've been able to open up to 4 events. We haven't done 4 events in a week, but we're able to do 4 events in a week if we need to. We're also working on continuous education of officials and staff. With Chris's new leadership, Chris coming in, he has some great ideas, and he's really going to push us to do more seminars, such as Dr. Lee, our doctor seminar, our judges, referees, both for MMA and boxing. So that's going to be coming up this year. It's very exciting. I think it's letting the fire under these guys, and we're ready to push it through and get people lined up and start doing these training classes. Because, you know, we've got to be in front of everybody. We don't want to be a follower. We want to be a leader. Another thing, what we're developing is we got these contract inspectors. I know whoever does shows, the guys behind the scene, the ones who work in the corner, the ones who are in the dressing room. Instead of being lost, not, you know, thrown in there, you know, not knowing what to do, we train them, but we want everybody to be consistent on the same thing. So we're developing a handbook where they'll be able to carry it on their person, and they'll answer any questions they might have. Because we're always coming up with new inspectors. We have some of the old ones, and sometimes things change, and we're going to get everybody a chance. We're going to have a uniform handbook that handles all we're almost done with it. As soon as we get done, I'll send you a copy also. As far as what's the code of conduct for them, and what's expected of them at the fight and at the weigh-in, and whatever we might use them in combative sports. And on our outreach part, just recently we had a new type of event. It's a combative sports event. It was a boxing event, but it was called Triad Combat. And it was promoted by Trailer Fight Club, and which included, it was a team concept of combat sports, and it was team MMA versus team boxing. But because of such a rush to put the show in, we decided that if they're going to have it, they're going to do it under boxing rules. The only thing they asked for a waiver was for their ring. It wasn't a ring. It was a triangle shaped ring. It was 24 each side. And then as well as that, they asked for the provision that in the boxing match, they take place with 8-ounce fingerless MMA gloves. And that was approved, and the show went off in Arlington, Texas, at Globe Life Field, where the Texas Rangers played, and they had over 20,000 people. And something different from this event is they also have entertainment tied into the event. And this thriller fight, this Triad Combat show that was put on, something they tied into it was a musical concert, and the musical guest was Metallica. And we were worried about how the crowd was going to tie in because of what had just recently happened in Houston's tragedy at that concert. But we had meetings with the promoter, with us, and as far as the security staff, and everything worked out beautiful. The crowds were separated. The boxing crowds were separated from the concert goers, as well as you could see both concert and fights from both areas. For the safety of the people who were attending the concert, they opened up more regress areas, such as exits. They pulled down some barriers where people couldn't get trapped. But it was a well-behaved crowd, and they cut it down from the general admission that sits in front of the stand from 3,500 to 2,500. So we're real comfortable. They didn't. Nobody jumped no barricades, and the barricades were it was a very strong barricade between the show itself and the combative sports show, the boxing show. But it was a successful show. It turned out to be a mega event. It produced over $3 million in gross receipts tax, as well as the pay-per-view buys. I haven't seen that yet, but that should be coming in soon. But and they plan to do more as we go along. Another thing is we got outreach. As far as outreach, Combative Sports Program has other possible mega events scheduled for February and March. Just by things that promoter has told me, we have, and this already been advertised, is the Charlo rematch fight where he was trying to do a unification title. We ended up a draw in San Antonio. That's going to be held in Houston in February. And then, and also in February, we have a UFC event coming to us. And in March, we're supposed to have another big boxing card. We just don't know who's going to be on it. There's still negotiations. But as soon as they know everything, they'll pass it to us. And there's other rumors. I really can't talk on the rumors because the promoter just asked me, don't announce it yet. I want to make sure everything's set in stone. But big shows coming up in April and May. So this year's going to be busy with big events. We're going to be in the national spotlight, and I have confidence in all our crew and all of our officials, doctors, and everybody's involved that we're going to have a very successful year this year. Any questions?
Greg, this is Roger Temple. I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
On the spreadsheets that you were discussing about tracking performance of the officials, is that something that is just internal, or will that be, is that on a show by show basis? And are those results, is the intent to make those available to the particular official who perhaps had a demerit assigned to them, or how is that going to
I
be
mean,
utilized?
it's not my term. It's more internal. That way, when we assign people, if somebody's doing horrible, we're just not going to let them keep doing horrible. I mean, we're going to suggest training. We're going to try have a one-on-one session with them. We want everybody to be successful. So it's not nothing. It's not a got you. It's not you're going to be in trouble. You're not going to be able to doctor no more, judge, referee. We're going to have outlets in order to improve their situation as far as what they need in training and what's acceptable to us. We just don't want to we want to have a tracking device as far as, well, why ain't we using John Doe? Well, John Doe needs to work on this. We're going to suggest another thing. Well, then once he does additional training, we can put him back into rotation. But as long as they're licensed with us, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt and just try to make everybody successful.
So will that feedback be given to the judge or the ref or the doc? Like if y'all, is there a show and somebody does something that you feel is questionable, or is that going to be given to that individual as feedback promptly after that spreadsheet is produced, or you wait for 3 infractions to say, okay, hey, we see a trend?
No, the feedback will be given there at the venue. Say I was there with you, Dr. Temple, and you weren't watching what was happening in the fight. I'm going to get up and tell you, hey, Dr. Temple, I'm going to ask you to concentrate on the fight. We'll have breaks between fights. You go take your break then. You can make your phone call then. But it should be, and all my guys know that we should address it right there and then. And this is just internal points for we get back.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Hey, Greg, it's Forrest.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I know, like, with my gyms, you have a couple of refs come in and come practice reffing sparring sessions, right? Is there a way a system could be implemented where it's required a certain amount of rounds per quarter for refs to have to go do that? And so 'cause I know it's not required for them to do it, but where it is required, they have to do so many rounds. Reffing these not amateur shows, but like sparring sessions and so forth, that has to be signed off. They have to be able to turn in so many rounds.
Well, the requirement right now is in boxing, we ask for 3 years of active experience in combative sports. And most of the boxing ones have been in USA Boxing. But a lot of times when we say if it's a new referee, we'll put them in there to do 1-2 fights, and we'll evaluate them. And from there, we can tell them, hey, you know what, let's work more on your refereeing skills. We'll recommend some sparring, go to the local gyms, ask the promoter, hey, can I referee your sparring? Yeah, any suggestions you got that'll help, we'll do that. But we do that already a lot of these up and coming.
What I'm saying, let me cut you off. What I'm saying is the way that we can make it a requirement that you have to do, at least 6 rounds every quarter, or what I'm saying, where they're required to have to do that.
I think we would have to go with Doug and General Counsel. We have to add it into the requirements part of being a referee. I mean, we can look into it.
That would require a rules change in terms of outlining requirements for each particular area. If that is something that we're interested in, that can be something that can be brought up in the meeting in terms of having standards. We can go over the pros and cons of having standards, and also if you're going to have standards, looking at the downsides in terms of if people are not meeting the standards, what happens in terms of that. Standards are good, but you have to look at the other side in terms of if people are not meeting them, what are you going to do in terms of enforcement? So that's one of those items that can come up on new agenda, and we can get that going, because a lot of these things are through the state regulation in terms of legislative items. It's not like we can just make a simple rule change. We have to go through the meetings, present it to the state. It has to be voted on. It's just the process.
Okay.
So I agree with you on that, but you know, we just have to go through the whole formality in terms of getting that taken care of.
And I'll just go ahead and jump in if you don't mind, Dr. Lee.
Sure.
Again, Doug Jennings, Assistant General Counsel for the department. We can go ahead and put that on the agenda for the rules work group, just to have them start looking at that issue and see if maybe the rules work group agrees to look at this further, or maybe engage in formal rulemaking. But like Dr. Lee said, we would need some changes to the rules to implement that kind of requirement. But we certainly can have the rules work group take a first look at it and see if any action is merited. We'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Any other comments on what was presented from regulatory? Okay, thank you, Greg. Let's go to the executive office.
Thank you.
And we have Mike and Mary again.
Dr. Lee, board members, Mike Harris-Mendez, Deputy Executive Director. Just want you to know that it's been a pleasure to work with every single person here and be attending the events. So the 2.5 years that I've been on the agency, it's been a pleasure for me to be able to work with everybody. I'm going to kind of keep it short. I'm going to have our Deputy Executive Director, Christina Kaiser, give the bill implementation update, and then Mary Winston will give the comm stats for the group. As far as personal updates, of course, you know about Lee, which it was hard to see him go. He had been such an instrumental part of combative sports, but we know that Chris Russey has taken over, and he's going to do a fantastic job also. He comes with a very deep analytical background, which I think will help the program in itself. So other than personal updates, we do have a little small one that we need to mention. Our Executive Director, Brian Francis, has announced his retirement, which will be effective January 31 of next year. So he announced his retirement in November, we're now in the process of trying to find a way to replace the man that has been instrumental for this agency and led this agency to the place that it is right now. So Brian Francis has announced his retirement for the agency. If there's no questions, I will turn it over to Christina Kaiser. Thank you, board members.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and board members. I'm Christina Kaiser. I'm one of the Deputy Executive Directors here at TDLR. My area of responsibility is regulatory services. And so I have the pleasure of being responsible for the Regulatory Program Management Division. I'm charged with talking to you today about bill implementation, and I want to avoid a whole lot of repetition. When you met last time, we talked about the legislative session and the things that passed and the bill implementation teams that had been appointed and were busy working on various things. I'll highlight that one of the biggest things that passed in the session was our sunset bill, of course. And thankfully, we were reported out favorably by the Sunset Commission, and our bill passed to continue us in existence for 12 more years. Those bill implementation teams that are working on putting into play the various things that passed during the legislative session, out of 28 teams, 10 of them are working on some piece of the sunset bill. So you'll see that's the biggest driver of our implementation work right now. And as a matter of fact, the rules that you approved today relating to the deregulation of 3 license types arose out of the sunset bill. And specifically, that was the work of bill team number 16. Which handle deregulations in this program and a couple of others as well. And so I just thought it might be helpful to kind of see how everything connects up and see that what you did today was implementation work. Also relating to sunset, I wanted to mention something else. The spreadsheet that Greg talked about tracking the performance of the officials, that movement is also a result of feedback that we received from the Sunset Commission. And that feedback was not specific to this program only. but sort of in a general way, Sunset gave us feedback indicating that we need to do a better job of collecting data about the functions that we perform. We need to do a better job of making decisions based on data rather than on personal preference or subjective kind of reactions to things. And we need to do a better job of documenting our decision making. And so the spreadsheet that Greg talked to you about is one example among many where, as an agency, we are trying to do a better job at those things. And I appreciated and welcomed the questions that Greg responded to. And I thought Greg did a really good job of explaining what our thought process is at this time about the use of the spreadsheet. It's very much a work in progress, though, and what we think now may not be what it looks like a year from now. So any thoughts or suggestions that you have are very welcome in that regard. That's all that I wanted to mention. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the sunset bill or anything bill implementation related.
Hi, Christina, Wayne Lee.
Yes, sir.
Back with the reporting, from the medical perspective, we have questions about reporting. And because this is a state agency and there is access to state information, I think it should be important that what we are collecting is reviewed per specialty, meaning that the ring keepers or the seconds have input in terms of what kind of data is necessary to be collected, that the physicians have, in addition to in terms of Greg's vision, have input in terms of what is good objective data so that we're having good data collection. Because at some point, this is something that someone may file that we want to see this. Maybe there was an event that was reviewed a particular way, and they want to say, well, what was this particular ring physician's ratings over the past 7 years for doing stuff? So I think that I agree that the Sunset Agency asked for this collection of information, but since they were not strict in terms of what needs to be collected, that we should do our own policing in terms of what kind of delayed data we're collecting, how much data we're collecting, because data has two sides. It's good, but it can also come back to bite us. So that's my comment on that.
Thank you, Dr. Lee, and you're absolutely right. Any data that we collect becomes subject to an open records request for anybody who wants to request it. We are happy to have your suggestions or any of the board members' suggestions about that process. That may be something, I'll leave this to Chris when he's ready to do that. He may want to get with one of the work groups or ask for a separate work group about this. I'm not sure if they're ready at this juncture to do that, but I'll leave that for them when they're ready to have that conversation.
Christina?
Yes, ma'am.
Mary Winston, TDLR. Dr. Lee, you are knocking on our door about strategic planning is what you're doing. So as Christina said, everything we do is public information. This was started based on the Sunset review, commission review, or staff review for the commission. But we do work groups, we bring it before you guys, but before we start all that, we do strategic planning. And that's that time where we go around the state, even if it's virtually, and say, what do we do well? What can we do better? If you were king or queen for a day, what would you do? What would you have us do? And we're looking for information or innovation that's going to affect your industry within the next 5 years. So that's a very good question, and you've put it out in the atmosphere, and we kind of do a rotation here. Session happens, we don't, if we start there, it's not where we stop. Then we go into bill implementation. And after we do that, then we go into strategic planning for the next session. So these things morph, move, change, and we try to change with it. Thank you for bringing that up. And I see Chris popped on because this is probably going to be his baby, so to speak, but you've given us a little ammunition for us. And I say that because our bosses, Bill Kuntz before Brian, now Brian, and our next one of the favorite things that they would say is you can either give someone information or ammunition. So we want to give them good information, right? So that's what our strategic planning process is about. So thank you. You've been here a while. You have a great voice in this industry, Dr. Lee, and you hit on the head. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And if I could, this is Chris Rusty. I'm the new manager over the Combative Sports Program at RPN. Dr. Lee, I absolutely appreciate what you're saying. And, I appreciate the concern, like Mary said, you have information versus ammunition. We'd be more than happy to set up a work group that we can go through this together. And again, like Christina said, it's still in its infancy here. We're still developing what data points. The session just ended. We just got out of the sunset report. So we're still in that identification stage. So your point to what data points would be most valuable to us, I would absolutely appreciate, your input on it. So I very much welcome it and look forward to that conversation.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other comments on what was just presented? We've finished executive office. Let's move to.
I'm sorry, Dr. Lee. We need to hand the floor to Miss Mary Winston for the final piece of the
I'm
executive
sorry.
order. My
I'm
apologies, sir.
That's okay. He keeps forgetting me because I keep jumping in when nobody's asking me questions. He's like, "We're done with Miss Winston." This little bit of piece is just very short. It's our informal analysis, and this helps our webmaster and our folks on our web team know what we're doing to put out there. If it's good information, what are the folks that are in combative sports or have that interest? What are they looking for when they go to our website? It looks like they're looking for forms and publications, results from previous events, laws and rules, upcoming event schedules, and frequently asked questions. We take this over about a 6-month period when we report it to you. And this 6-month period ended November 30th. And the website had almost 30,000 views during that time period for an average of 163 per day. Now, this last statistic I'm going to touch, how is the website viewed? This helps us keep up with what's coming in the future. Should we have an app? Is our website effective? What should we do? 33% of the visitors access the website and this page for combative sports from a desktop computer. That is not true from, actually, I don't think the majority, but definitely some of our licensed professions. 66% do so from a smartphone. This lets us know that you all are on the go, and it lets us know where our technology needs to lean to be most effective. And what is consistently that we find out is that the tablet is something that we are not probably looking at enhancing that view from, because it's consistently the smallest number or percentage of how public accesses the website. And that is the end of the executive report.
Well, I'm sorry I cut you off, but that was a most delightful and informative report. We will need to have you come in and give some additional reports since you do that so well.
Thank you, Dr. Lee.
Okay, let's move on to item H, update on the status of the United States Muay Thai rules and submission. Calling on Doug.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Lee. Again, Doug Jennings, Assistant General Counsel for the department. Just wanted to give you an update on a couple of things that the Rules Work Group is looking at. No action will be required today. Just wanted to make sure that everyone knew what was happening. The first item is the U.S. Muay Thai Federation. So the department was approached by the United States Muay Thai Federation before COVID hit. Of course, COVID changed everyone's plans for a long time now. We're trying to get caught back up. We were approached by the United States Muay Thai Federation for consideration and approval of their rule set. And their rule set would be used to conduct amateur Muay Thai events in Texas. And the idea is that I believe contestants as young as 10 or 11 years old up to 20 to 23 years old would be included in that. We got the work group together to look at those rules. We had a particular mindset at looking at the health and safety dimensions of those rules, making sure that they would adequately protect the health and safety of contestants, particularly younger contestants. So we've looked at those rules, and we are going to continue. We staff are going to continue working with our executive division to determine whether the rules should be approved or whether there are some changes we need to negotiate with the U.S. Muay Thai Federation. We anticipate having an answer soon. I would imagine by the next time this group meets, we should be able to give you a report. Another item that we're looking at in the rules work group is a code of conduct rule. Now, that is a rule modeled on a few different states. I think it's California, Nevada, and New York. The rules that they have regarding the duties and responsibilities for ring officials. Now, ring officials are, of course, referees, judges, ringside physicians, and timekeepers. So the draft rule, which you'll see right now on page 22 of your meeting materials, and I'll put it up on the screen in just a moment. It makes it clear that ring officials have to act with honesty and integrity, which is no surprise to anyone. One thing that it does do is it's going to put in place, once we have it finalized, it's going to put in place some clear prohibitions on certain conduct, such as those we want to avoid our ring officials having a conflict of interest. So we want to put some prohibitions on things like ring officials having a financial interest in a contestant, wagering on bouts or events, of course, and receiving or soliciting gifts from licensees. Now, this rule won't be placed on the agenda. We're not confident that we'll have it ready to go for the next meeting, but we're going to go ahead and try to get it scheduled for formal rulemaking. The Office of General Counsel right now has something like 99 or 100 rulemaking packages pending. So this is going to have to wait a little bit. But you can see on the screen the draft of that the work group has preliminarily approved. It still has some work to go, but this is the framework we've got. So you'll see things. Ringside officials must, actually it should be ring officials. Ring officials must do these things: conduct themselves with honesty and integrity, avoid conflicts of interest, also report to the department any license, sanction, or administrative penalty from another state, or any criminal conviction or deferred adjudication in any jurisdiction. So those are broad ring officials must, and then we have some more specific must nots. So as I mentioned just a moment ago, ring officials must not have a direct or indirect financial interest in any contestant, because that would constitute a conflict of interest. Place a wager on any combative sports event, perform services at an event while impaired by alcohol, illicit drugs, or medication. Those are just some of the highlights. Of course, this isn't finalized yet. We're going to take this to exec, get their thoughts, and bring it back to the work group. But we do anticipate putting this on the calendar for rulemaking at some point in the near future. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, item I, recommendations for agenda items for the next advisory meeting. I think your item for the training could be brought up so that it can potentially go in a work group. So if you want to recommend that, then that way we can put that as an agenda item.
Dr. Lee, if you don't mind, again, Doug Jennings, Assistant General Counsel. I think that's something we can go ahead and put on the agenda for the rules work group.
Okay.
And then maybe we could just have a rules work group report at the next meeting that can discuss the progress and take the temperature of the board on whether we need to move forward or continue looking at this issue. If that's okay with you.
And also, if that's okay, this will mean that this work group will meet before this board meets again. So staff will reach out to coordinate that meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And let's see, Anne, we're going to talk about dates.
Yes, sir. We're going to poll y'all for the next board meeting. once the rules work group has met and everything has been finalized with that, we'll create a, I'll send out an email to everybody and poll y'all for the dates for the next meeting.
Okay. If there are no other items, I wish everyone a happy new year and a Merry Christmas, and we'll move to adjournment. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, everyone. Happy
Thanks,
holidays.
everyone.
So take care.